Picture this. You are crouched behind the shattered walls of Samarkand, March 1220. The acrid smoke of burning flesh mingles with the sweet stench of spilled blood. Around you, the screams have finally stopped, not from mercy but from the systematic completion of what Genghis Khan called the lesson. In the distance, you witness something that no chronicler dared record in full detail. The great Khan has assembled the surviving women and children, not for slavery, but for something far more systematic, far more psychologically devastating. What you're about to discover about the Mongol conquest goes beyond military strategy. This is the story of how sexual domination became a weapon of empire, how systematic brutalization became policy, and how one man's psychological warfare changed the genetic makeup of Asia forever. This is the untold story of conquest through humiliation, empire through degradation, and how the great Khan understood that destroying a people's dignity was more effective than simply killing them. Before we dive into this dark chapter of human history, I want you to understand the scope of what we're examining. What you're about to learn about Mongol conquest methods will fundamentally change how you understand the formation of the largest contiguous empire in human history. Modern genetic studies reveal that roughly 16 million men alive today carry Y chromosome markers, linking them directly to Genghis Khan and his immediate family. That's not just conquest, that's systematic biological colonization on a scale never before achieved in human history. The Mongolian steppes. Temujin, the boy who would become Genghis Khan, is born into a world where survival itself requires the systematic domination of others. When Temujin was 9, rival tribes murdered his father and kidnapped his mother Holon. But here's what the sanitized histories don't tell you. He was forced to watch as enemy warriors systematically violated her as psychological warfare against his clan. Destiny would carry him through this crucible, but the hunger in his eyes wasn't just for revenge, it was for a method of conquest that would ensure no enemy could ever inflict such humiliation on his people again. Early chroniclers noted something disturbing about young Temujin. While other boys played at war, he studied the aftermath. He watched how conquered tribes were broken not just militarily, but psychologically through the systematic abuse of their women. Age 16, Temujin's first independent raid revealed the psychological lesson he'd learned. To defeat your enemies, he told his warriors, you must not just kill their men, you must make their women forget they ever belonged to anyone else. But Temujin understood this world better than most tribal leaders. While they fought for horses and territory, he was building something far more sophisticated, a system of conquest that would psychologically reprogram entire populations. 1178, his marriage to Berthe seemed conventional, but contemporary accounts reveal disturbing details. The marriage contract included specific provisions about the treatment of captured women from enemy tribes, not as slaves but as instruments of psychological warfare. When the Merkit tribe kidnapped Berthe and held her for nearly a year, Temujin's response revealed the man he was becoming. He didn't just rescue her, he systematically violated every Merkit woman of childbearing age, ensuring their bloodline would carry Mongol genetics. By 1200, Temujin had developed what his generals called the complete conquest protocol, not just military defeat, but the systematic replacement of enemy bloodlines with Mongol genetics through organized sexual dominance. The Secret History of the Mongols, written by his own chroniclers, contains passages so explicit about these methods that most translations omit them entirely. The sections describe not random violence, but carefully planned psychological warfare. 1206. Temujin becomes Genghis Khan, universal ruler. But his first imperial decree wasn't about taxation or military organization. It was about the systematic treatment of conquered populations, with specific focus on reproductive control. The Yasa, Genghis Khan's legal code, included provisions that modern historians struggle to translate diplomatically. Article 47 states, the women of defeated enemies belong to the state until they have borne Mongol children, ensuring the permanent replacement of hostile bloodlines. What happened next would shock even his own generals. Genghis Khan created specialized military units, the bloodline cavalry, whose sole purpose was the systematic impregnation of conquered populations. Persian chronicler Ibn al-Athir wrote in horror, the Mongols have perfected what they call complete conquest. They do not simply defeat armies, they ensure no enemy bloodline survives to seek revenge by replacing it entirely with their own. By 1210, the Mongol conquest machine had evolved into something unprecedented in human history. Industrial-scale population replacement through organized sexual dominance. Chinese records captured from the Jin dynasty reveal the horrifying efficiency. Mongol quartermasters maintain detailed records of reproductive assignments for conquered populations, treating human beings like agricultural resources. The process was methodical. Step 1. Eliminate all males over 12 to prevent resistance. Step 2. Categorize women by age and reproductive potential. Step 3. Systematic breeding programs designed to replace the local population within 2 generations. Genghis Khan didn't delegate this responsibility, he personally oversaw the systematic breeding of conquered populations, seeing it as essential to permanent conquest rather than mere cruelty. 1219. The Khwarizmid mid-empire represented everything Genghis Khan despised: settled civilization, accumulated wealth, and populations that had never known nomadic hardship. When the Khwarizmid Shah murdered Mongol ambassadors, he unknowingly triggered what would become history's most systematic example of conquest through sexual domination. The siege of Bukhara lasted only 3 days, but what followed lasted 3 months. Genghis Khan implemented what he called the complete lesson, not just military defeat, but the total replacement of the city's genetic heritage. Persian chronicler Juvayni documented the horror. The Khan divided the women into groups of 100, each assigned to specific Mongol units. The systematic nature was more terrifying than random violence. It revealed a mind that had turned conquest into science. Picture this. You are standing outside Genghis Khan's traveling palace in conquered Samarkand, watching the implementation of what he called imperial education. The great Khan had transformed conquest into a bureaucratic process. Women from noble families were brought to his personal attention not randomly, but according to a systematic selection process designed to maximize psychological impact. Contemporary accounts describe the Khan's personal involvement in every detail. He didn't delegate the systematic breeding of conquered populations. He saw it as statecraft requiring imperial attention. When you take a woman from a defeated enemy, he instructed his generals, you are not satisfying desire, you are planting Mongol seeds in hostile soil, ensuring their descendants will serve our imperi, rather than resist it. The process was methodical beyond anything seen in medieval warfare. Mongol record keepers maintained detailed genealogical charts tracking the systematic replacement of conquered bloodlines. Children born from these systematic unions weren't considered captives. They were raised as Mongols, trained to serve the empire that had systematically replaced their original heritage. The psychological warfare was devastating. Conquered peoples watched their genetic heritage being systematically replaced, their culture being bred out of existence through organized imperial policy. When asked by chroniclers about his methods, Genghis Khan was explicit. "Our enemy defeated in battle may recover and seek revenge. A people whose women bear your children become your subjects forever, as their descendants will serve your empire rather than remember their father's defeat." The immediate political fallout was enormous. The systematic nature of Mongol sexual conquest spread terror across Asia faster than their armies could march. Chinese, Persian, and Russian chroniclers all recorded the same pattern: populations surrendering without resistance rather than face the systematic breeding programs that followed Mongol conquest. Modern genetic analysis reveals the staggering success of this strategy. Roughly 0.5% of the world's male population, 16 million men, carry Y chromosome markers directly linking them to Genghis Khan and his immediate male relatives. The long-term historical impact extends far beyond genetics. Genghis Khan's systematic approach to conquest through sexual domination created a template that would influence imperial strategy for centuries. Look at any modern conflict involving systematic sexual violence, and you'll see echoes of the Mongol approach. The understanding that destroying a people's reproductive autonomy is more devastating than simple military defeat. The psychological warfare pioneered by Genghis Khan didn't end with the Mongol Empire. It established precedents for conquest that prioritized long-term population control over immediate military objectives. Understanding this history isn't about glorifying brutality. It's about recognizing how systematic sexual violence has been used as a weapon of conquest throughout human history and remains relevant to understanding modern conflicts. We return now to those burning walls of Samarkand, where you witness the systematic implementation of conquest through sexual domination. Genghis Khan's legacy isn't just the largest contiguous empire in history, it's the genetic heritage of 16 million people whose ancestors were systematically bred into the Mongol imperial project. His story reminds us that the most effective conquest isn't just military, it's biological, psychological, and generational. The systematic nature of his approach reveals how organized state policy can achieve population control more effectively than random violence. The great Khan understood something that modern strategists still study. True conquest requires not just defeating enemies, but ensuring they can never organize effective resistance by systematically replacing their genetic and cultural heritage with your own. If this examination of systematic conquest through sexual domination provided new historical insight, subscribe to The Hollow Throne for more analysis of history's darkest chapters that shaped our modern world. What aspect of Mongol systematic conquest most clearly demonstrates the relationship between sexual violence and imperial power? Share your historical analysis in the comments below.